I am Gail Dillman. I'm one of the owners and founders of Gable Music Ventures. I have two kids, one of which inspired me to start the business about 6.5, almost 7 years ago. That's my daughter, Erica. Not to say my son hasn't been influential as well. She was 15 at the time and looking for a place to play music. And long story, and I will maybe let Jeremy tell it later, but she was my inspiration to create an opportunity for music to be heard for all ages, an original music platform. That's how Gable came into being when I realized that there just wasn't a place for artists to play. So she inspired me, and I met Jeremy in this journey, and we put our names together, Hebel and Gail, and we came up with Gable. So that's, people often ask, where did that name come from? And that's where that name came from. I'm also an advocate for children. I work as a volunteer for the state of Delaware. I'm a court-appointed special advocate, and it's another passion of mine, as well as being in the music business, being an advocate for children and for those who cannot speak for themselves. So it's important work, and it all intertwines and goes back to my desire to make the world a little bit of a better place by what I can do for kids. And music is a way to get kids involved with doing things that aren't the bad things. So I'm really proud of that piece of our business that we've created over time. It's been quite an ongoing journey, but we work with a lot of younger musicians, and we like to think that we've actually been the incentive for a lot of bands to form.
I've got a video played back in my head. I thought those memories were dead.
So I'm Jeremy Hebel. I'm the other owner of Gable Music Ventures. I am born here in Wilmington, Delaware, where our business operates. I am a musician, an artist, obviously an entrepreneur. And Gail's been a real inspiration in my life. In fact, I actually just recently got involved also and started volunteering my time for Big Brother, Big Sister of Delaware. So we're both trying to be really good advocates and examples for youth here in Wilmington, not just in our business, but in our personal lives. My background is largely, I worked at just about every job you could possibly have before doing Gable Music Ventures, everything from a bank teller to a mortgage loan officer to selling digital cameras to delivering pizza. I mean, you name it, I pretty much did everything. But it was really following my heart and my passion for music that kind of led me to be working at Accent Music, where I just wanted to be around musicians and be around musical instruments, which is where the way our business got started was that I was working and repairing a guitar one day, and I heard a customer that I had, seen from time to time, but never really spoken to, who was having an issue with the guitar that she had bought from the company, at no fault of the company at all. But the guitar was going to need to be out for repair for a pretty long period of time, and she was really trying to get some sort of loaner instrument for her daughter, so that she could continue practicing. And I just thought that was really cool that she was standing up for her daughter and trying to make sure that she wasn't going to be without an instrument for a long period of time. I also knew that the company wasn't in a position, or just it wasn't a policy to lend out instruments. And I personally had a couple extra guitars, so I just chimed in and said, you're more than welcome to borrow one of my guitars. I'll bring it in tomorrow. And that's exactly what I did. I brought my guitar in the next day, and she took it, and Erica used it for, I guess, a couple weeks until the other guitar got back. But it really started a friendship. That was probably, in my life, one of the most fate-filled things I ever did. And I've, done stuff like that throughout my entire life, and typically didn't work out quite well.
You say it happens when I am depressed. At my best, I'm just dizzy now. Dizzy now. Dizzy now. dizzy now.
Gail kind of took it upon herself to, she just took an interest in me. She took an interest in what I was doing. At that time, I was in a band called PD Low Notes and the Truck Stop Regulars, and she offered us a house concert. She heard some of the songwriting and asked if I would work with her daughter to, help with songwriting, which I did a couple times, and that kind of turned into, hey, will you help kind of manage my daughter? I really, she was so driven, and it was so cool to see, and her daughter really had a lot of talent even at age 15, and so we basically, she asked if we could put together a show, with my limited knowledge at that time of the venues in Wilmington. I kind of used. No, they were just bars, and I did what I could, and I reached out to different places, and didn't really find anything that would be suitable for two 15-year-old girls playing their original music, and so without any other options, I suggested to Gail that we just rent a room somewhere and put on a show, and that's what we did. And
slings and arrows, you get used to that stuff. Helps you smile, things get tough.
Gail just was born for this. What she didn't mention is that she has an event production background working with Children and Families First. You co-founded the Taste for Art, right? Yeah, which is one of their biggest annual fundraisers. And so she knew how to put on an event. I didn't at that time. I literally had no idea how to put on an event. I was blown away by her. I mean, she negotiated a decent price for the rental. She, we got tickets printed. We did posters. We had a photographer there. She got press for the event, even though we had no business doing what we were doing at that point. We had no knowledge of how to put on a concert together. And this is before we ever knew we were going to continue doing this. In fact, at that time, I already had a plan to leave. This was November. I had a plan to leave in January to move out to San Diego. So literally right after we did this great event where we sold over 100 tickets to, I was packing up and getting ready to go. I was selling my belongings and moving across the country. And once I moved, Gail kind of reached out and said that she has all these people in the community, Barry Schlecker, who's another event producer. All these people were reaching out to her saying that, what she did really was needed here in Wilmington. There's not that kind of, nobody else was doing that kind of thing. We're finding and creating opportunities for especially younger musicians to perform. And so she told me she kind of caught the bug and was going to start a business. And since I was involved, she wanted to give me give me a chance to come back and be a part of it as a co-owner.
Emotional black eyes never go away.
So what was important was that we going into Gable Music Ventures, we did not have a business identity. There was no one in Wilmington or even in the surrounding areas that was doing what we were doing, and it was a total risk and it was a total gamble as to whether or not we could pull it off. And starting a business, as those of you who know about starting a business, is a really tough thing to do. And it's not just tough getting it started, but it's tough to maintain it. And so when you hit that 5-year point, you still are scratching your head going, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? There were times in the beginning when we first started Gable, we were doing pop-up shows down at Lower Market Street. And at that time, there was no one down there. I mean, literally, there was no one down there except there was what was then called Extreme Pizza. We started working with them, bringing pizza into an empty shop called Film Brothers, where we would set it up. We'd get a liquor license. We'd bring in the mics. We had this heavy as could be sound system that was probably twice my size that we would lug in there and set it up, along with the chairs, the coolers, the beer, and we would stand there going, okay, we're ready. And we had this great lineup, and it would be the 6 musicians there, and Jeremy and I, and we're like, we're ready, where's everybody? And maybe 1 or 2 people would dribble in, and that was it.
Hit you blindside, make you dizzy now, dizzy now, dizzy now, dizzy now.
And there were some of those moments when I literally went into the bathroom and just sat there and said, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I just don't know if I can do it. It was probably a solid 9 months before we started to break that barrier about going in to see live original music in an alternative venue down. Yeah, it's about that much time.
Yeah, and Extreme Pizza became our first actual customer as a business, which was really cool. They saw, here's feedback for anybody starting a business that may seem, those first few shows, Gail and I, we I'd never worked that hard. Would spend hours and hours and hours, leading up, trying to promote it and tell people about it and organize it and get everything done. And then the day of, we've spent hours and hours and hours lugging everything in. And then, at the end of the night, you spend hours and hours trying to figure out just how much money you lost, basically. And you need to get past those moments to realize that, people are realizing that you're trying to do something different. And Extreme Pizza approached us and asked if we'd be interested in doing live music inside the restaurant after our little shows were happening at Film Brothers. And they turned into our first paid customer. And it really, that was momentous for us. Here's income all of a sudden that was happening, albeit not much, but they were a customer of ours for 5 years, for a long time. And I mean, I think we got other clients that saw really cool shows happening that were really well promoted at this little place on 2nd and Market Street. And so anytime anybody says what's the most important thing in business, it's what Gail got advice really early on, that whether you're putting on a show and there's 3 people in the crowd or you're expecting 30,000, make it the same show no matter what. Make it so that it's super professional, the quality is there, and it's well run regardless of the crowd size. And we implemented that from the beginning, even when there were 2 people in the room. And because of that consistent quality, every time more and more people would come, more and more people were talking about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And the artist community really got behind us.
Private moments amplify. It's our big mistake.
Focuses of the business right now, not just obviously the event side of the business is big, but we're trying to identify more businesses of any type that are interested in hosting live music. And I think there's a lot of them out there that don't think of it as a possibility, or are misguided in thinking it's unaffordable, or just aren't thinking about it. And one of the things that's great about a town like Nashville, for example, and one of the reasons that Nashville's a music capital, is you can't get away from music. You go to the shopping mall, there's musicians playing. You go out, wherever you go, get your coffee, there's musicians playing. They're all over the streets, and that makes people that love music gravitate towards Nashville. And so here in Wilmington, unfortunately, what's going on is that music is existing primarily in bars, and the couple of music venues that actually have stages around here. And we're trying to find more non-traditional venues. I love that we're booking music for Starbucks. I love that we're booking music for ShopRite. Our local supermarket chain is giving great opportunities. Talk about a cool thing when an artist is from out of town and is saying, oh, hey, I'm coming through on this Wednesday. Well, we can actually help out. We can give them the stage at Ernest and Scott Tap Room for Wilma Wednesday for a built-in crowd. And then beforehand, we can set them up with an in-store performance at ShopRite, which pays them gas money, gives them a free meal, and is an opportunity to get tips and promote the fact that they're going to be performing later. That's a cool thing, and it's a very non-traditional, and it's really, it's, I guess, from our efforts of just preaching music should be everywhere, that these things have happened. And so we're looking for more of that. We're not necessarily looking for investors to step forward and start new venues. That would be great. But the places that are already there should be opening their doors, should be reaching out to us and saying, look, I'd love to do this, even if it's once a month. Let us figure out how to make it affordable and beneficial to your business, because that's what we're good at doing. And so that's the other focus right now. And we're going to be reaching out to a lot of the musicians that we've worked with over the years to ask for their help in brainstorming this kind of thing. We're going to be reaching out to a lot of different business owners, just because we want to have as much music happening in Wilmington as possible. And when that happens, and it's not just the World Cafe, not just the Queen Theater and the Grand and the Baby Grand and the Delaware Theater Company, but when it's also a bunch of different places happening. And again, people just realize, yeah, I love this town. There's always music here. It's going to take a few years, but consistently making that happen, we're going to start attracting music lovers. We're going to start attracting musicians. We're going to start seeing more of an industry pop up. And by what I mean is Wilmington is going to be a place where you can exist and live as a professional musician. Right now, there are professional musicians that live in Wilmington, and mainly they do it because it's close to Philadelphia and New York and Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and the other major markets. We want them to come here and live here and be able to perform here. There's no reason why we can't have 50 to 75 venues in downtown Wilmington consistently doing live music. What that'll do is the people that are not at all, I'm not talking about traditional venues, I'm talking about whatever, retail establishments that want to do live music. But it should be possible for an artist living in downtown Wilmington to kind of be able to perform all over the city at different things without having to repeat and play the same places. And what's been happening for too long is there's 5 places to play, and all of these artists are just kind of going and making that round. And people are getting tired of seeing the same artists over and over again. The artists are getting tired of playing the same venue over and over again. The venues are feeling like, well, this isn't necessarily panning out, that we're not seeing any boost in business. It's kind of dipping, if anything, over time. We need to have more artists coming into Wilmington. We need to have more venues that are putting on live music. And more, and possibly most importantly, we need the people that are here and living in Wilmington to realize that none of this can happen unless they go out and support it and see live music. And so we have, for example, every Wednesday night at Ernest and Scott Taproom, we've got this great series, Wilmo Wednesday, that's happening tonight as we're getting ready for it now, where we have comedy, we have all these different genres of music. It's always family friendly. It's from 7 to 10. It's an early night. You can come out and grab a bite to eat and catch the first half of the show, and it's totally free to attend, and you just need to come out and experience it, because it's not an open mic with really poor quality. These are fantastic artists that come from all over the place to play, and it's really an exciting thing. And so again, we just need the people that live in the apartments that are above the restaurant, wander down from time to time, come down, have a drink, and see if there's music that you like. I think a lot of the population of Wilmington has had it in their head for the longest time that there's nothing to do. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I know that's the truth, because 10 years ago I was one of these. There's nothing to do in Wilmington. I got to get out of Wilmington, people. But it's gotten so much better, so fast. And so people just need to kind of wander out and experience it a little bit more. One of the things that blows us away about Ladybug Festival is how few of the attendees are from right there on Market Street. They're coming from all over the place. They're coming from outside of the city in. They're not necessarily people living in the city. And so there's just so much untapped potential for the downtown area and for Wilmington in general, for Newcastle County in general, that we're just wanting to put the word out that our services are adaptable to almost any situation.
So just I think we probably gone way over what we should be talking about. We're on a journey, and we started this over 6 years ago with no idea that we would be hosting and have created an event that brought in thousands and thousands of people into Wilmington. So we know anything is possible. And if you can dream it, if you're patient, if you're persistent, if you take a step back and analyze what you're doing and ask for help and just reach out to people and form a collective of people that want to see the arts elevated, really the sky's the limit. And we're really very excited, very proud to be part of Wilmington and part of this music scene. And I personally have to say, I feel like we've made a difference in the lives of so many musicians, and I look forward to what that's going to look like in another 5 to 10 years. Not only where is Gable going to be, how big it will be, or what kind of events we'll have created, but just all the artists that we've touched, all the people along the way. I'm already proud of so many of them, but I'm looking forward to what the future brings for a lot of them as well.
Screaming, please don't drag the lake.
think that's true, and I think you're touching on a couple of different points. Is as an artist, how do you get yourself out there more? How do you make those connections? And you can talk about that as a business from the business standpoint. How do we play nice in the sandbox with everyone? We just do. We just make it a point to do that. Because we don't own a venue and we use other people's venues, I've learned to have to deal with a lot of different types of personalities. Getting back to that whole thing of women in business, well, it's a challenge because there are some people out there that really don't like to deal with women. So that's when Jeremy gets really handy to have around to have that. But we go into it with, I'm not threatened by competition at all. I like competition. I want more. I want more people to bring music into Wilmington. I want more. Because more is more for everyone, and it elevates everyone and makes you work harder, smarter, faster. It's good. More opportunities for musicians is a good thing for Gable Music Ventures. So I welcome it. I don't shy away from it. Too many people do. They get territorial, they retreat, and they don't see the big picture. The big picture is that having a dynamic music scene is sustainable. And if you kind of get that in your head that there's enough to go around for everyone, it's kind of the socialist approach to music. There's enough to go around. We just have to distribute it a little bit differently. Then you get beyond the petty differences that can really get in the way of being productive. Now, from the musician's standpoint, getting themselves out and about and known and entree, I'm going to let Jeremy just address that a little bit more, because there are things you can do, or there are things you shouldn't do, and ways you can connect. And I'll close this statement by saying, it's all a question of connecting the dots. I mean, most things in life really are. It's all about making connections. Who do you know? Who does that person know? Following up, getting to know them, and how can that relationship work for me? Those are called networking events. I mean, not to say that everybody's got to go to a networking event, but networking is definitely a way to build success.
That's really well what I was going to say. I think one of the mistakes I see so many artists falling into is this idea that they're spending most of their time trying to get booked and just going out and playing, and spending almost no time actually developing a fan base. And I think it should be the other way around. The artists that I see being really successful, they don't go out and perform as frequently as they spend time engaging directly with their fans, doing really cool online Facebook things. A Facebook page is a wonderful tool if you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, it's pointless. I mean, pretty much completely pointless. I love seeing these artists that focus on doing some ticketed shows locally, performing very smartly. It's not like they're not playing elsewhere. They're doing house concerts. They're doing private online concerts. They're streaming things. They're periscoping. There's so many different ways to perform and cultivate and grow your fan base. I think, to be honest with you, going out and playing in a bar is almost the worst way to go out and cultivate and grow a fan base. I'll use Nalani and Serena as a perfect example, just because every time we've ever booked Nalani and Serena, they will stay around for an hour and a half after their performance, talking and building relationships with the people that were impacted by their performance. And then they follow up with them. They get them on an email blast. They engage these people that they are actually growing a fan base. And that's a powerful tool. And a lot of artists think, oh, I'm doing really well if my schedule is just full and if money is coming in. Well, yeah, I mean, if money's coming in, that's great. But you have to think about how much more you could be doing if you have a large group of people that are firmly behind you and want to help you achieve your goals. There's tools out there like Patreon, which is really, I know Angela Chic recently got involved in that, and I've seen a lot of other artists using that. There's so many online communities that exist that not only offer a way for you to, reach out directly to your fans and crowdfund different projects and whatnot, but also help you continue being creative. They kind of force you to create content, which is another big challenge for artists. So I think that, again, focusing less on just getting your schedule. I love these new bands. They come about and the first thing they want to do is go on tour. And it's just like, you can't go on tour until you can tell people that you have a fan base that's going to come with you on tour, or you have to have something to offer. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Fish did it better than almost anybody. I mean, they had a rabid fan base. They had fans that will follow them all over the country, no matter what they do, for decades. But I think that would be my big advice to artists, is to focus less on just filling out your schedule and focus more on filling out your fan base and actually turning people that walk up to you at a show and say, hey, I liked your music. That shouldn't be a fleeting occasion. That's a big deal. That's a potential fan, and you need to engage with that person, stay connected with that person, make sure that you know how to reach out to that person the next time you're going to be in that venue or whatnot. So every little instance that someone comes up to you and says, hey, I liked your music, whether it be online or at a show, that's an opportunity to really walk away with a fan. And a fan is not just someone that clicks like on your Facebook page. It's somebody that shares your content, tells other people about it. That's a fan. A fan is somebody that's not your friend or your family. Somebody that heard about you for the first time at a performance or heard your music and is passionate about what you want to do and wants to help and wants to support. And those are the people that artists should be trying to seek out and cultivate those relationships.
Paint some pictures, hang them on your wall, knowing you won't like them much at all. So dizzy now, dizzy now, dizzy now, dizzy now, dizzy now. What is this all about? Why don't you cut it out? Why did you open your mouth? Oh, what is this all about? Why don't you cut it out? Why did you open your mouth? Open your mouth. Open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth. Thanks.